So if you thought Friday was good, wait until you see today's show. We've got another guest in studio, and he's got big things to say. It's Dave Raymond, television voice of your Texas Rangers, joining us next on the DLLS Rangers podcast. Well, I don't know if you thought Friday's show was great. I hope you did, and I know Jeff did.
It was great.
He tweeted it out.
It was great.
He tweeted it out, said, again, he admitted his bias, but he said, I think it's one of the best shows we've ever done. And so it's a tall order for Dave Raymond today to outdo Mark McLemore, who was our guest on Friday.
Well, can we give up now?
Maybe we should. Where's the white flag? No, Dave is here. We're thrilled to have you, Dave. We appreciate it very much. John Radigan, Dave Raymond, Jeff Wilson, and we do have the Prophet back, which is great. We love TC, but, everything's just calm with the Prophet here, and we know what to expect. And so we want you to join us, chat with us, and, like us, subscribe to us, all those things you do to help us stay here on the stream and on the air. And the first question to the television voice of the Texas Rangers is simple and it's straightforward. So what the hell are we doing on TV this year?
Again, I would like to encourage everybody to like us.
Yes,
so
all of us.
I think that's always a...
it's a big start, isn't it? Yeah.
Would you please just like us?
Yeah.
So what are we doing on TV? Well, let me get my messaging from the team here for you. The announcement's been made about victory.
Yes.
Right? So we're on victory. Yeah. And that simplifies things, I think, for a lot of folks.
Sure.
I just would say this, victory is not going to be the only avenue for fans.
Right.
There will be other sources, and they're about, I think, to go ahead and announce those things. So that's going to be happening.
We have, Jeff wrote it, and I was working on the reporting of it with him. We have reported on the show here. There's going to be an over-the-air component, and there's going to be what we call a linear component, which would be satellite and cable. So we just don't know what the specifics of that are at this point. Is that right?
What I would tell you is they've been working on this for quite a little while, right? Going not like as the season ended. They've been really working at this for a long time, and the goal is very simply to make it so people can see the games again.
Yep.
Because that's been the biggest problem. There's the financial component, and that's real, but the real struggle had been just the fact that I think about 3 million people in the entire territory, Major League Baseball's territory, about 3 million people had access to the games. Well, there's like 16 million people in that territory.
Yeah.
The goal is to get it out to all 16 million, and I think we'll be there. So announcements coming very soon. It's really exciting too. I don't want to get in, I can't get into a whole lot of stuff, but just stick with us. There's going to be a lot of really interesting side stories to this as well. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, that's great. And look, that is all anybody wants. People, as I was in the days when Bally was circling the drain, right? And people are so mad at Bally and by extension mad at me. And I'm sure you got some of this too. I'd rather we were on for 16 million people, right?
Yeah, right.
I don't love doing a show. We do all this work to put a show on or a game on, and nobody sees it. But we just do what we do.
Right. Obviously, I'm not in those meetings. I'm not negotiating those deals. But I can tell you that the Rangers truly, and people may never know the full story on this, the Rangers have been as aggressive and advanced and forward looking on this as any team in baseball. The Dodgers and the Yankees don't have to be. They've got these $300+ million deals per year. There are a handful of teams that are in that neighborhood, right? The Mets, another team. But the rest of them were all kind of stuck in this RSN situation. And very few of them have really given the thought to, well, what happens next and how do we get there? Which is stunning to me because this is a really big question, regardless what team you are. You've got to know, and you have to have a place. And more importantly, there's a big revenue piece to this that's critical for the function of the team. And some teams just really, I think, are just sitting back saying, like, well, we got to wait and see how this thing plays out. No, you don't.
No.
You really ought to be out there trying to figure it out yourself right now.
Yeah, and along those lines, I've said on our show before, the easy move for the Rangers would have been to go back with FanDuel, as Cincinnati has done, as Detroit has done, as Minnesota has. I think Minnesota has, but I hope
Milwaukee
has done. I think the Cleveland has done, right? All these teams that have done it, and I don't blame them because through FanDuel, they're still going to get a good amount of money. They probably, in the Rangers' case, my guess is they probably would have been offered $80 to $90 million a year instead of the $110 they were getting. But I still believe that's a short-sighted view of things. It's still a regional sports network.
Right.
And those are probably going away. What's next? Who knows? Maybe the Rangers are about to invent it.
Maybe. And maybe this is the long-term solution. Maybe this is something
also a stopgap. Yeah,
a stopgap. Yeah, because the sands are very shifty right now, and you just have to. But you've got to be nimble. You've got to be agile in this thing. The good news for the Rangers is this is a huge market. This is a big franchise. It's got a great fan base. They come out and support the team at the ballpark. They will watch if the games are on. So they have a lot of things going for them that another smaller and maybe less successful franchise doesn't have going for it. And so they're in a great position to be doing this right now. It's a very, very challenging thing to do.
It is. And one of the things that I actually spoke to, the great John Blake, the retired John Blake, who's anything but retired. I was at an event with him and Pudge a week ago Friday. One of the things we talked about was, and he told me, that he knows, he's not in on this one at all. It's Angie and all those people. But he knows that the goal is to get the entire region, right? Yeah. Which includes Oklahoma, which includes Louisiana, which includes New Mexico. And I said, how do we still have all of Texas? He goes, I can't believe Major League Baseball hasn't changed that. And you were with the Astros. You know this. I mean, when we were Fox Sports Southwest and we had a Fox Sports Houston, you know, the line was Temple. Right?
Yeah.
At Temple, you could, if you were north of Temple, you saw Rangers. South of Temple, you saw Astros on the same little channel, Fox Sports, whatever. And somehow when that whole Comcast thing happened in Houston and they lost their team on TV for a while, we got the whole state.
Yeah.
And MLB's not changing it.
No, it's amazing. And it's great fortune. And that, again, that's another reason why the Rangers are so well positioned. I don't know that people can fully understand how aggressive and bold a move it is to go out and try and do this right now. When RSNs that have been at this for decades are folding the tent and running for the hills, here we are stepping in and saying, well, let's give it a shot. So it's to be commended. And like you mentioned Angie Swint and Jim Cochran and so many others inside the organization are just busting their humps. It's impressive.
Yeah.
Well, and then the increased viewership has got to add value with sponsors.
Absolutely.
You know, the Coca-Cola is one I always throw out, even though I don't know if Coke is a sponsor or not. But if Coke was only getting $3 million or 3 million people in reach,
right,
and you're multiplying that by 80%, I don't know, to get to 16 million, that's more than 80%. It's probably like 400%.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, the value of the contracts and the money there that then goes to the franchise has got to be, you would think, 400% more.
And look, here's what I've always said too, Dave, and I'm sure you agree. If Bally was paying, and they were able to pay until they got into that debt situation, but Fox was able to pay $110 million a year to the Rangers. And then they paid me a large sum of money and a bunch of others of us a large sum of money, and they had a whole office with about 200 people in it. and they still made money, right? So I don't know what the total take on all that was, but it was a hell of a lot more than $110 million.
Exactly.
And so the Rangers theoretically are going to be able to make that 110 plus.
Potentially, for sure. I mean, there is the potential for this to work out better than it was working with Bally's. And listen, they didn't have a complaint about taking that large check every year.
No.
And when it was distributed widely, that was great. But the reality is, based on all this work, they could potentially do better financially, and of course get the better reach, and you just have more control over how your product is being distributed and presented. And I think that's really appealing to the ball club. And the last thing I'd say about the positioning of the team right now on this type of a endeavor is you look at what Chris Young has done with this team, and now with obviously it's not just Chris Young himself, but the entire baseball office, and Ross Fenstermaker now is the general manager working under CUI. But the aggressiveness with which they have built this team and what they have done to make it competitive and compelling to view is a huge deal as well. Yeah. It's a really good product right now, and so it needs to be out there for people to see it. And I know that the financial end of it is a big part, and it's a big motivation for the team. But truly, and I really mean that from the team's perspective, every bit is big to them. Is we want people to see this. We want people to experience this team. And that is every bit as big a motivation for them as the money side of it.
Yeah, I mean, just how many of these fans haven't been at the ballpark who've missed out?
Right, yeah.
You know, if you're giving them a free game, or they have to upgrade their package for $5 extra a month. I mean, how is that? That's got to translate at the turnstile,
sure.
Yes.
And in the concession stand. So I mean, it's just that free game of the week is going to be like a marketing deal, basically. I mean, good graces come back to us. It just seems like there's so much potential still to make money on the back end by reaching these fans, and I think that's a huge deal. Because we were at FanFest. I ran into a guy who watches our show. He and his boys came down from Oklahoma. Well, Oklahoma's in our territory, and Oklahoma hasn't, unless you had DirecTV, or a few select others, you weren't able to watch them. And that just tells you, to your point, the great fans. They come from East Texas, they come from West Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana. They come and because they like the Rangers. So if that's who you're trying to reach, then you're in good shape if you're able to reach them all.
Yeah, and it's easier to do now, right? It's easier to commit to the longer trip if you are in Oklahoma or if you're in Louisiana, to say, oh, you know what, I want to go catch that series. The Cincinnati Reds and Ellie De La Cruz are coming to town. I really want to see that. You don't have to worry about, well, will the weather be good?
Right.
Will we be, sitting outside in the rain and missing, we'll get banged, whatever. You know now that every game's going to be played. It's going to be on time. The roof's going to be closed if the weather is threatening. It's going to be open if it's beautiful. And it's an ideal situation for that type of thing when you have a large territory like this. So yeah, I mean, it's just there's so many aspects of this that are so critical and so important, and it's why it's really, really exciting. We're excited to get the news here soon.
Yes, and there's no doubt. I mean, when you think about, I don't know how much you noticed what the Mavs were doing when they basically did this same thing for this season. As late as August, they were still thinking, you know what, we might go back to this FanDuel thing, right? In August, they weren't sure, and they turned it around for October. So the good news here is, like you say, the launch pad has been so much longer, right, for the Rangers. Not only were they working on it prior, but they have had this entire offseason to get it done.
Yeah, and I think people probably wonder, and I know that at times I've asked, like, well, why haven't we said, why haven't we put out the release to say, here's where the games are going to be or whatever? And the answer to that question is a really simple one, which is, all right, you and I have entered into an agreement. You and I have decided what I'm giving you is worth X and you're willing to pay X. Okay, great. We've even scribbled it down on a piece of paper. And now you draw up the contract, your legal team, and our legal team reviews it, and here we go. So I don't know a lot about attorneys, but I do know that they're paid kind of by the hour. And what I do know is these contracts have been going back and forth, and there's a lot of legalese and little nitpicky stuff that just has been tying this whole process down. It's fundamentally done. The news is going to be coming out shortly, and that's really all we can say right now, except that it's going to be really exciting.
And you know why Dave didn't include me in that little thing? Because he knows I represent myself. I don't need no damn lawyer. I'll tell you that right now. We got lots more coming up on the DLLS Rangers podcast. We actually were going to talk some baseball things with Dave, that segment. And we never got to them, which means it's a good thing we've got 3 more segments to talk with Dave. And coming up next, we will talk about some of his experiences and Jeff's this weekend on the Caravan. It's all coming up on the DLLS Rangers podcast. I think you're first, Jeff.
I am first, and I'm excited because I get to talk about floors. Empire Today. I know you've been in the area a while. You know Empire Today, and if you use the code DLLS at empiretoday.com/DLS, $350 off new floors. And everybody needs new floors eventually. The Wilsons are about to take that big step now that our kids are a little bit older and aren't destroying the floors. So what they do though at Empire Today, shop at home convenience. They have an app so you can take a picture of your room and apply the stuff and see exactly what it looks like. You don't have to go to a big box store where, as I always say, a guy just sold a contractor a box of nails and then he's trying to sell you floors. No, sir. These people just do floors. That's it. Only floors. So if you want to do it, take advantage of this deal. You schedule an in-home visit, in-home estimate, empiretoday.com/DLLS for $350 off new floors.
Great idea. Dave, of course, flies the charter with the team, as I did for many years. And one of the things you notice on a charter is that as the players come back, they pass us. The media's towards the front, and the players come back. And every time they do, Dave, they've all got on very cool sunglasses, right?
Oh, yeah.
And multiple different pairs of sunglasses. And I'm always like, damn, I wish I had the money they had where I could buy a bunch of different pairs of sunglasses. Here's the solution. You heard about Shady Rays yet?
I have not.
Shady Rays are fantastic. Look right there on the screen.
Yeah.
That's a different style they have. They have so many styles of sunglasses, and they are relatively inexpensive. And yet they're cool looking, right? I mean, they're good looking shades, and they're polarized. And you can get 35% off. If you go to shadyrays.com, use the code DLLS. All of you can get 35% off, too. I'm a big fan. I wear them almost every day. And I promise this, if I was on the charter, I'd buy about 5 more pair. So that way I'd always have a different pair like those guys do. You see what I'm saying? But Shady Rays, we love them. All right. Charter, man, one of these days we probably need to have a whole segment about
that's a conversation. If I may.
Yes,
I know this is your podcast, right?
No, well, you're our
very
guest
much
here,
your
there.
podcast.
It's ours. And theirs, too. It's all of us, really.
Today, I feel like I'm a part of something kind of special. I'm a part of this podcast.
Yeah.
And while I would never intend to, quote unquote, compete with Mark McLemore because that can't be done, I do want to ask you, did he bring you any gifts?
He did not.
Uh-oh.
Holy moly.
Hang on here. Now, Jeff...
I think I know what this is.
Jeff probably knows what this is. He's been on this list for a while. Rads, you're included because you have an appreciation of gardening and raising your own food and whatnot.
Wow.
This is Dave's homemade elderberry jelly.
Wow.
And it is delicious.
You're kidding.
You're going to love it.
You grow the elderberries.
I grow the elderberries in my backyard.
Your yard. Where I've been to the house, I didn't see elderberries back
Oh, no, they weren't there last time you were there.
Okay.
But I now cultivate my own little elderberries, and then I make the jelly, which is fun. That's the fun part. The growing the elderberries is a pain on the neck, but
are elderberries like? Can you just eat elderberries?
You cannot. They're poisonous. No.
Oh.
The leaves, the stems, the berries themselves. Like I had a friend not long ago. He ordered some elderberries frozen or whatever, and he was going to put them in his smoothies, and because they're elderberries have incredible health benefits.
Right.
But so he did. He took some frozen ones, put them in his little smoothie, and like 20 minutes later was bent over the toilet and was really pretty jacked up. Called me, was like, hey, what's the deal with elderberries? I thought these were good for you. I was like, yeah, you can't eat them raw. You can't do it. They're bad for your dogs. They're bad for you. They're bad for anybody. But, when you prepare them, then you you get rid of the bad stuff.
I see what's happening.
Are these FDA approved?
Yeah, I was about to say. I see what's happening here. Notice the first question of the segment was, "This is your podcast, right?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And the subtext in Dave's brain was, "It's about to be my podcast. Eat the berries."
Angling.
Jeff and I are going to be dead in the morning.
But you know what though? You're gonna love the elderberries.
That's great.
You're going to love your last few minutes. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah,
You're
thank you
welcome.
very
It's very
much.
kind of you.
I'll
I'll
go buy some bagels.
Yeah, we'll put Macklemore on notice, man. He's going to have to
So
bring
like peanut butter and elderberry? I mean, what have
So
you...
I use it all the time just for PBJ. Yeah. My favorite use of elderberry jelly is, and this is stranger to some, is a grilled cheese sandwich. I like to spread it over the top of a grilled cheese sandwich.
Really?
Almost, getting your
Yeah.
It's kind of a Monte Cristo kind of angle on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you in a broadcast? This is a few seasons ago. And I don't know if it was because the Brewers are involved, but apple pie and cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I remember
apples
hearing
and
it.
cheese.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah.
That
was during the pandemic.
I've done that with.
Yeah.
I think it's a northern thing. We used to have it all the time in Michigan. I used to work at a restaurant in high school. I worked at a restaurant as a cook, and then I became a waiter. And I never availed myself to the apple pie with cheese. But I mean, I served so many.
Oh yeah.
I just melt a Kraft American single. I mean, we were in a high-end restaurant. Melt a Kraft American single on a piece of apple pie, and they loved it.
Yeah, cheddar, big big deal. Yeah.
I imagine better pie and better cheese would, be nice.
Next time you're at a nice function and somebody's pulled out all their nice fancy wines, you're at Emily Jones's house, right?
Okay.
And she's got her nice wines out, and she's got a nice, cheese and crackers kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, sometimes you'll see some people slice pears or apples on that. Go ahead and do it. Just take a cracker, put the apple and the cheese on it, and give it a whirl. It's really good. It's the sweet and the savory kind of coming together.
And a little salty with the cracker.
It's good.
All
fantastic.
I'm
all over it.
It's good.
Food Talk with Dave Raymond.
Somebody was, I guess it was CJ, was kind of repulsed by it.
He was repulsed by it,
Yeah, but you've got support from us on this one.
He was repulsed by a lot of things, Dave said, actually.
Yeah.
All right, so a caravan talk first. Jeff, you were at the caravan stop.
I was.
This weekend in Frisco, which he told me, Dave, you were not assigned to, apparently.
No, I was not there. No.
Yeah.
There were no voices there.
Is that right? Only players?
It was voiceless players. Yeah.
Boy, and they still did it?
Well, they did.
How can they?
What's the point?
How can
what
they?
Are we doing?
Yeah. I mean, I only stayed for the player interview portion. The media availability. I was out of there pretty quick, but I asked, and they were like, no.
And you had a chance to talk to.
We talked to Dane Dunning and to Jacob Webb. Dane did just after his 23, he was so valuable to the team. He was the Rangers pitcher of the year. Then he kind of took a step back, if you will, had some shoulder issues. Basically, he said he got out of shape. That was kind of the problem. So he's lost some weight, which is allowing him to get back into his normal mechanics. But then we talked to Jacob Webb because we hadn't had the opportunity to do so all off season, and he seems like he's going to be a real good fit in the area. Had on his cowboy boots and some kind of hat that represented cowboy boots, and just seemed like a real good guy. He's so happy to be here. He'd been with the Orioles. He gave up in Game 2 of the ALDS. He gave up the Mitch Garver Grand Slam.
I remember it.
So if you want to know who served it up, I'm sure Jacob doesn't really want to talk about it, but he's in a good spot in his career. He'd kind of been I don't want to say a journeyman, but a guy who had been DFA'd a few times and got picked up. I remember him pitching for the Angels, and he just seems like a guy who's so happy to be with the Rangers.
And but he was non-tendered, right?
He had been non-tendered by the Orioles, and it sounded like he thought he was going to end up signing a minor league contract. And I guess the Rangers wanted him on a big league deal, and he said his agent called him. He's like, sign me up, and he signed for less to be in a good spot, and that helps with the Rangers and the CBT and all that. But this guy's a pretty good pitcher, and it just seems like he's so grateful to be where he is. But he was at the Round Rock Caravan stop too, so on the drive back, he and Mike Maddox got some quality time together to talk, and I just knowing Mike the way I do, I think he and Jacob are going to have this is the beginning of a wonderful friendship.
Yeah, agreed. I had recently, speaking of Mad Dog, I guess it was last Friday, he and I did a Rotary in Fort Worth and got to talk about some of the pitching that's been added, and what he's looking at this year. I mean, to me, it's super exciting, the additions that were made to the lineup. And the lineup needed a little bit of a boost, a little shakeup. Even just, getting Evan Carter back healthy is a boost, right? But, if you can have Josh Young all year, that's a huge boost. But Jock Peterson's, he's an exceptional hitter. That's a big add. You've just added a huge bat. I think Jake Berger is going to be really fun too. So there's a lot of stuff with the lineup that's super exciting. The bullpen, I won't say quietly, but there's been so much turnover, so much change there. And you don't have anybody who's throws 102. So there's nobody with that sort of extraordinary light up the radar profile. So I think it's gone a little more under the radar, so to speak. But it's huge. I just think what they've done to the bullpen is every bit as exciting, probably more so than what has happened even to the lineup. There are some really intriguing ads. Robert Garcia, obviously Chris Martin. I don't think they're done either. I know spent a lot of time on this podcast discussing the closer situation, but I think there's still more to come. But the pitching side of it right now is really, really exciting.
You can look at these guys and they all do something different. A couple of them feature changeups. You look at Hobie Milner and what he does against left-handers. He doesn't walk anybody.
None of them do.
Chris Martin doesn't walk anybody at all. And it's just, it seems like these are absolute, they fit into what the Rangers want. No walks, command the strike zone, throw quality strikes, and just have enough, whether it's a changeup or a slider. Garcia throws, what was it? Bassick was on here. He threw his changeup last year only to right-handed hitters.
Yeah.
And he uses his slider against lefties. So they know how to pitch, and Garcia is a big guy. And then, we saw him for the first time at the awards dinner. It's a big thing. He's just kind of put together and he, confident guy, maybe back end stuff eventually. Jacob Webb, he said, hey, it's everybody's dream to close, and it seems like these guys might get a chance.
Well, as of right now, I think everybody's in that conversation. Do you think about Chris Martin last year? And last year was a great year for him, but last year in better than 44 innings, he walked 3 guys.
Right.
3.
Wow.
Right.
It's just it's stunning. And if you look at pretty much everybody they've added, the typical walk rate for a major league pitcher's 8% or so. Everybody that they brought in, they're like 2%, 3%, 5%. They're really, really low walk guys. So they're just going to be going after hitters. I think that part's really exciting. Like you say, they're all they all bring a little bit different style. Some more contact, some more strikeout. Milner comes from the side. You just got you have so many different looks. I think it's a really, really interesting bullpen. Now, the question you guys keep asking, and I don't know where you guys come down on this at this point. We've gone from John Gray to anybody else who's been brought in to help the bullpen. Could they be a closer? Yeah, they could all be a closer. And I do think all of those things are in play and possibilities. But don't you think that there's still another move?
Yes.
Yeah, I do. And to your on Chris Martin, 3 walks, 1 intentional. So so that tells you.
And that probably pissed him off.
Yeah,
probably got squeezed on one of the other ones.
So I do think there's another move. You look at the bullpen right now. It's the 5 that they've signed with big league or added with big league experience. You're going to need 1 or 2, Dane Dunnings, just with the innings and keeping tabs on Rocker and DeGrom, and so I think you'd need a couple of them. So that leaves 1 spot really, but you need a guy with options too. You got to have somebody who's optionable, who you can churn out and send them down. And I really like Mark Church. I mean, I think the Mark Church is a guy who has a chance to make the club. But if they do add a closer, that kind of it restricts your roster flexibility, I guess, because you got to look at who has options. Well, if it's, let's say it's Bradford and Dunning, just as an example. Well, they both have options, but they don't need to go to the minors, do they? Robert Garcia has options, but so I don't know how that is all going to shake out, but it just now, all right, move John Gray to the bullpen, sign a starter. If you're worried about losing his innings, well, make him up on the other end. So it just seems like there's a lot of ways to go. But John surprised me the other day when he's like, "Yeah, I'd love to. I'm all for closing."
Yeah, he seemed really enthusiastic about it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love to, and I think I'd be really good at it.
Oh, yeah.
And he does have stuff that profiles well for that.
He does. They've said it for years, and any injuries he's had, and he's had them every year, aren't to the arm. He's like, I got a rubber arm. I can recover. The arm can recover every day. So, and if you're getting him in as a closer, and he's only needing to use 2 pitches, and we see more velo when he's there. I mean, those are all good things that would definitely work with John Gray potentially as a closer. We just think they need his innings as a starter. So we'll see how that shakes out. We've got more to talk about. We want to talk minor leagues a little bit about Rangers prospects who are really shining in the minor leagues, and some of Dave's experiences back there. Next, DLLS Rangers podcast. But first, it's not Shady Rays.
It's Rugged Road.
It's Rugged Road, Jeff.
Yeah, Rugged Road. Where is our cooler? Is it not over there?
Over here, yep.
Oh, yeah. Premium cooler here. It's lightweight. It's durable. It floats. I don't know why you wouldn't have one. The Wilsons are definitely in the market for one with baseball season about to start for the little one. Well, he's not so little anymore. He's 12, but God dang it, those damn tournaments, you're there all day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so you need to pack drinks and food and snacks and all this stuff. And you do that too much, that cooler becomes way too heavy. But fortunately, Rugged Road's got your back on that. And if you want to go float the river, it floats. And it floats upright, not upside down. So you easy access. RuggedRoadOutdoors.com. Go there. Use the code DLLS for 10% off. You're not going to regret it. Durable, lightweight, and pretty darn good looking, too.
Yep, very fine looking, well made, and they're a great product, as are so many of the products that we get from FOCO. I've told you about my experiences with FOCO and buying those team-branded items. If you want to show your support for your team, maybe you are a Chiefs fan or an Eagles fan, and they're going to the Super Bowl. I don't know if you've heard. You could get your Eagles or your Chiefs stuff at FOCO. And they have so many different things, from literally pens and, coasters and obviously wearables and hats, and some of the stuff you see behind us is from FOCO. So we're big fans of FOCO. Like I say, I bought a couple of things over the Christmas holidays. Dave, they have overalls.
Okay, now we're talking.
I was going to get a pair of, because I'm a garden guy and everything, I was going to get a pair of the Lions overalls if they went to the Super Bowl. And I really thought they would.
So did I.
And I really
thought
a lot
of people did.
Yeah, I really thought I'd be wearing them, but I'm not. But use the code DLLS at FOCO for 10% off.
Yeah, we got to get you some of those.
Yeah, some Rangers overalls.
Yeah.
Are you guys? Oh, you did last year, didn't you? CJ's gone, but you still wore the
We did.
blue.
Yep.
The powder blue.
Yeah, the Sunday Blues. Yep.
Yeah. Did Bassick get one of those?
No, we just kept CJ's and
Gotcha. Kind of made it fit.
Yeah, we just jury rig everything up there to make it fit.
Make it fit. Beautiful. Yeah, because that's one of the cool things, and we might need to get them. Maybe on Fridays, you can do overalls, right? It's Texas.
Man,
it's a brand new game here with the TV situation. So
for sure,
it is. And I've heard from somebody, and this is going to anger and annoy me, that suits are not going to be mandatory. I don't know if that's been decided for sure yet, but I've heard that, and I wore that damn suit for all those years.
Oh, Reds.
With shorts still, but
yeah,
what an annoying thing.
CPA / broadcaster.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Well, it was, I was a broadcaster from here, and we were partying, man. Partying.
Government employee from the waist up.
That's it. All right, so minor leagues. Jeff, let's start with the prospects, because the reality is every list that has come out has had the same three, which is, that's not unusual.
Right.
They've all got Rocker, they've all got Walcott, and they've all got
Alejandro Rosario.
Okay, in some order. But man, the one that came out recently, The Athletic, it's really got the Rangers ranked highly.
Well, they're very bullish on Sebastian Walcott. Keith Law, who's been around for a while, looking at prospects and stuff, former Blue Jays special assistant, he has Sebastian Walcott ranked the number 2 prospect in baseball. And you know, in his comments about the player, he said that next year Walcott could be number 1. You know, he's an 18-year-old kid. He doesn't turn 19 until March 14th, I believe. Had a tremendous year at high A when, you know, most kids are finishing high school, basically.
Yeah.
And we had John Moore and I had Jim Callis on the weekly show in December, and Callis was like, "Look, if Sebastian Walcott was in the United States, he'd be the number 1 overall pick in the draft. You know, just based on the year he had as an 18-year-old." So I mean, the talent's there. Baseball America, you know, they released their top 100 last week, and then did kind of like who could be number 1 next year, and they had Sebastian Walcott in that group. The guy's just super talented. You know, he's 6'4", his dad's 6'5", so Sebastian could still grow.
Sure.
He's 19, or not even 19. He's filled out since they got him out of the Bahamas. But he does a little bit of everything. He does strike out too much, but so do all 18-year-olds. Probably makes a few too many errors, but Derek Jeter, his first year in pro ball, had like 55 errors.
Yeah.
You know, so it'll come around. Whether he stays at shortstop, I don't know. But the Rangers have a potentially a pretty special player on their hands. Rocker at 51. I think there's concern about the injury risk. Rosario, can he repeat his breakthrough year? Really, he didn't pitch above A ball, so there's some concern there. And again, it's a guy, you look at his college numbers, and it's like, I don't know, he wasn't very good at Miami. Rangers took him in the 5th round and just basically simplified things, told him to work on what he does best, and upper 90s velocity, a good split finger fastball. So he'll probably be at Frisco. But again, the Rangers have some meat in this system, and then they have a lot of depth. You know, I mean, Teodo, who was just mentioned, he had a fabulous year. You know, was a star at the Futures game. He's not even in the top 100, and he's the guy, 102, good slider, working on a changeup. So probably needs a cutter, maybe something, just another pitch. But he's not in the top 100, but he's on the 40-man roster and could be in the big leagues this year. So there's a lot of upside, I think, in the Rangers system.
Which speaks again, Dave, to one of the things you were talking about with CY and the baseball operations people. Like they're doing all these things right over here at the big league side, but the farm system is not depleted in any way at this point. It's very strong, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, no, that part is really exciting. And when you look at what, like you say, Rosario did last year, and that was a breakthrough year, yes, but they made some pretty fundamental changes with him in terms of pitch usage and sequencing, and it was like the light bulb went off, and it was like a discovery to him. Like, oh my gosh, I can do this. I can execute at this level. That's pretty exciting. Now, he's a ways off yet. I mean, it'll be another year or two before you can really start to seriously consider that. But Teodo, I had conversations last summer with people like, I don't know, possible that he could maybe even help now, soon. And there were some people who were, I don't want to say in favor of that, but they were more inclined to say, like, look, you could put him up here right now, and I think he could really help. It might not be the best thing for him, but I think he's very close to being a big help with the big club this year. So that's something, who knows? We could speculate wildly on that, but I think anything's in play with Teodo. So, but yes, I was just reading Baseball Prospectus the other day, looking at their rankings of the farm systems, and they had the Rangers, I want to say 4th or 5th overall, and talked about how it's, you want depth of talent, but you want to have that high ceiling, extraordinary talent at the top, like Walcott, right? Which he's Wyatt Langford-esque, right? And that really helped last year, the ratings. When you had Evan Carter, who had matriculated the year prior, and then you had Wyatt Langford, the top prospect, who is clearly going to be an amazing big league player at some point. Well, it turned out it was immediate. And who knows what his ceiling is, right? I mean, we survived last year, and now we'll see what happens this year with him. So that's the thing, is they've got some depth, but they've got these guys who are percolating up at the top who are big-time talents, right? Big-time, not just guys who can be major league contributors, but guys who can be special major league players. Mm-hmm. And that's where things get really exciting. So, yeah, you sign some guys. They seem to have a very cohesive vision on what they want to do to make the team better, where they need help and where they can make adjustments. But then they're developing great young talent along the way as well. And that's when all that stuff comes together, then you are starting to talk about the potential for long runs of success like we've seen some other teams have. So, yeah, we're right on the cusp of probably this franchise's greatest run.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. And, it's funny you say how they knew exactly what they wanted. And you mentioned how they got all these pitchers who are similar in that they don't walk people and those things, right? Those are all things they wanted. And sometimes it has felt, and maybe even to some fans this year, it's felt like, for a bullpen, you just throw a bunch of guys against a wall and see if they stick. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's the case. Like, these were not just happenstance signings or acquisitions. These are guys they were looking to get.
Yeah, it's felt like for a while that a lot of the philosophy in a bullpen, not necessarily with the Rangers, but with any team, was, can the guy throw really hard?
Right.
And it's like, well, let's get a couple of those. And there's merit to that, right? Velocity does win. It does beat hitters a lot, but it's got to be good velocity. It's got to, you have to understand how to sequence and get more out of that velocity. But a big thing is just don't hurt yourself.
Right.
Don't put guys on for free.
It
seems like such a simple concept, but it's difficult to get everybody pulling in that same direction. Or again, if you get infatuated with something like velocity or certain metrics, guys' spin rate or whatever else, you can start to look the other way and not pay attention to the really basic stuff like, how about we just not give up a lot of walks? How about we just minimize the number of base runners for the opposition? How about we try to keep the ball in the ballpark, right? Those types of things are still, the great thing about everything that we're learning and all this information that we're getting now is we can figure some things out that prior to had been maybe a little more mysterious to us. But at the end of the day, it still matters. How many runs did you score? How many runs did they score? And how do we get there? Well, it's base runners, it's home runs. And so if you can simplify your scope a little bit to like, well, how about the dudes who just know how to pitch, who get outs? That can be really a really powerful way to build a bullpen.
Yeah, exactly. That's the name of the game. Outs. No matter how you get them.
Well, I was like, we're talking about velocity, right? And I was looking through all these new additions for the Rangers, and they're all exceptional for one reason or another. And the one thing I noticed is I looked at all of them. They're all right about the median in velocity. So you don't have, they're all 93 to 95. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, so you don't have a 98 to 102 in there. Well, big deal. I was like, well, what about other closers, right? And so you start looking like Kenley Jansen. Well, I mean, he's middling. He's right in the middle there. He's a 93, 94 average fastball velocity. So you don't have to have the overpowering velocity to get outs even in the big spots, right? Mm-hmm. You just have to know how to pitch.
Yeah. Rosario, one thing, the no walk theme. 129 strikeouts in 88 and a third innings, 13 walks.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah.
2 home runs kept in the park.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, it's really good.
But then you've seen Jack Leiter struggle with the strike zone. Alex Spees, if you guys remember Alex Spees, could throw it through a brick wall, couldn't throw a strike.
Right. So I'm not as interested in that.
Yeah.
Right? I have much less appetite for guys who throw 103 but have no idea where it's going.
Yeah. Used to be. I mean, I think that was intoxicating before, and we've learned. Yeah, not so much. And again, these guys, these hitters, will figure out a way to hit 102 or 103 if you just keep throwing it straight down the middle every time. So more to talk about with Dave. I still want to get to at least one of his minor league stories, but also we've got the cleanup segment. So I'm not sure. I mean, we may just have to have Dave back or go long. I don't know. We'll decide.
We got to answer some questions, too.
We got to get to questions. So DLLS Rangers podcast. We're hurrying.
Well, this is the point of the show where we talk about ourselves.
Yes.
And how great it is to, our merch at store.allcitynetwork.com. I'm wearing underneath today, I think I've got Big League Chew on. What do you got on, Joe? Yeah, Big League Texas Chew.
I've got the one with the neon
Texas
on
Chew.
it. Yeah.
Not flashing anybody here, but they're good items, all right? And they're having a kick-ass sale starting today.
That's right. I forgot about that.
It's like the, semi-annual clearance thing. You can get a hell of a great deal. 20% off just to start, and then there are other items that are up to 50% off. So I need to go and check. I've got 13 shirts. 13, I'm born on the 13th, but is it unlucky? I sometimes think it is, so I might have to break that just to be sure. I might get that one, John, that you got on. But anyway, hats are coming soon, they assure me, because that's pretty much my main concern when I get dressed every day. So store.allcitynetwork.com, and you're going to get a free one of these shirts when you become a diehard.
It's beautiful, and I'd love you to become a diehard so that you can read everything that we put behind the paywall. And thus far, I know you haven't quite, we haven't been around long enough for everybody to figure out how much is being written. Jeff, I think, wrote 16 articles last week. And
it was tiring.
What's that?
I took the weekend off.
The weekend off. But again, there's only so much news during the off season. I mean, it'll be there all season long. You need to avail yourself to all this great content. I just paid my dadgum DMN Dallas Morning News bill for half a year. It's a direct, like they take it out. I'm like, where the hell did that money go? It's a lot more than $79.99. Let me tell you that.
Goodness.
Yeah. So you can get all this stuff. We're doing the same things they're doing. You get all this stuff behind the paywall for $79. It's not just for the Rangers. It's for Cowboys, Stars, Mavs. We're adding the Wings very soon. We want to get more big into college. So do yourself a favor. Become a diehard today.
Today.
Two frickin' day.
And like us, right?
Oh, yeah, always like us. Please
subscribe.
Like us.
All of that.
That's all we care about. We need likes, little thumbs ups, all those little emojis.
I already gave the thumbs up for us today.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Oh, good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Every little bit helps.
So where do we start here? Francisco Lindor went to Fashion Week, Dave.
Okay. Yeah. I think I'd heard something about this.
Yeah. Do we have the pick, Prophet? I don't know if we do. I forgot to warn Prophet about this. He's working on the pick.
Yeah.
It's amazing. First of all, this goes back to the money again, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and obviously there's a lot to do with personality too, right? I mean, no matter how much money Colby Lewis made, I don't see Colby going to Fashion Week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like what you saw with Webb, Colby's boots and a hat and jeans, right? That's his idea of fashion. And a lot of these guys with the money they make, and again, their personality and how they like to go to Fashion Week in Paris. But it's interesting. There it is. Look at that.
What's he wearing?
I mean, is that not fashionable? Hell, I don't know. I don't think.
Well, I mean, that's not for me to say. Clearly,
no, clearly. Yeah.
I don't have any of those garments in my closet.
I'm a little surprised.
Maybe the orange shoes.
Maybe.
No, the baggy pants. I used to. You're old. You all both are old enough to remember like the bigger pleated pants.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And they were. I didn't mind those.
Parachute pants. Absolutely. Please,
I didn't mind.
Don't hurt them.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. I mean, like Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris. They would have, they would have gone to like the cigarette factory,
right?
And the bar. That's what they endorsed back then. And I don't think they endorsed suits, but who's the big suit maker back there? Woolworths? I don't know. Just go to the Woolworths Fashion Week. I don't know. It's just
times have
different
changed,
these days.
John.
Yeah.
Listen, Boomer, you gotta get up with the time.
Thank you. Thank you for using my nickname that my daughter always uses.
All right.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And let's see. Ryan Pressley's going to the Cubs. He waived his no trade. We saw this. Well, it was probably likely. In 2022, he was on the mound, and Kyle Tucker caught the last out of the World Series when they won it, and so now they're reunited.
I saw something that of the last, I can't remember what the number is, of the last, let's say, 6 World Series winners, only one is still on the same team, Josh Spores, who got the last out of the World Series.
Oh, gotcha.
Josh Spores. It may go back longer than that, but Anyway, yeah. That deal apparently is going to allow them to re-sign Alex Bregman.
Seems like that's where this is going, right?
Yeah, because Bregman can't seem to get more than 4 years from anybody. No. And I think the Astros originally offered him 5.
5, yeah. And he turned it down.
Yeah, because he wanted 6 or more.
Well, he wanted $200 million as well.
Yeah,
he wanted the 2 as the first number.
Yeah.
Right.
Allegedly, again, we're not in those
that's
rooms.
aiming pretty high.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. I because they've made all these moves. I saw a tweet that to make this happen, to let him still play third base, they'd move Isaac Paredes to second and Altuve to left field.
Yeah.
That seems...
Well, but I kind of get that, right? Because I saw Altuve talking about that this weekend, saying he would move to accommodate Bregman. And I thought, that probably, that's one of those throw me in the briar patch situations, because Altuve, remember a couple of years ago, he started getting the yips over there.
Yeah. Yep.
I think that his defense is probably taken a step back, and I think their confidence in his defense at second base is such that they would probably welcome a move to the outfield. But then I don't know how many left fielders you can have.
Right.
Jordan Alvarez, we're going to, they
full-time DH, right? I mean, that's
he's pretty
Alvarez's future, or maybe they switch. I don't know, but golly, I don't know. That one just...
He's not your prototypical left fielder. Let's put it that way, L2. Of course, he's not your prototypical second baseman anymore.
I know.
There's really nothing typical about the guy at all.
Yeah, that's right.
No, I can't imagine he has much arm strength out there. You know, he's going to have to learn how.
You don't need as much in that left field.
Deep shortstop at that ballpark.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a good point.
It's a good point. So, you were traded.
Yeah. Not this year, but
no. Yeah.
I've been traded.
You've been traded. I just love this story.
Well,
I mean,
yeah, I didn't love that story.
No, of course
I was in the minor leagues. It was I would do my minor league job broadcasting, and then I would go back to California usually in the off season and continue working another job I had. And so anyway, it was probably right about this time of year I get a call, and it's when I was working in the Mike Veck family of teams. They're called the Gold Clan Group. They owned 5-6 minor league clubs. Bill Murray, one of their owners. Anyway, they called me, and they were always looking for things that could get them publicity. And so they said, well, what if we traded you to St. Paul? You go work for the St. Paul Saints, and we bring their announcers down here. Now, their announcers were Jim Lucas and Don Wardlow. Don Wardlow was born without eyes. He was blind in the most extreme way one could be blind.
Yeah.
And he was the color analyst. And so they're like, well, we'll bring those two down here, and you go to St. Paul. What do you think of that? I'm like, well, I mean, I don't really think of that.
Much of that.
I never thought of that, and I don't love it. But what's the idea? Oh, we'd get a story in Sports Illustrated and all this stuff. And long story short, eventually I came to realize they really weren't asking me anything. They were telling me what was going to happen. Yeah. And so there's nothing I could do. They threw in a cash machine and some crab cakes. We're switching teams.
And it was all within the same ownership group.
Exactly.
Obviously. Yeah. So
all done to gin up this, little publicity and whatnot. Yeah. Now, what I do take now a little pride in, there's been only one other trade of an announcer. Do you know who that is?
I don't.
You ever heard this?
No.
It seems like I'm going to know it when you say it.
He's in the Hall of Fame.
Like a Red Barber or something.
Ernie Harwell was traded from the Atlanta Crackers.
Actually, I almost said that.
Yeah. He was the voice of the Atlanta Crackers, and they were on like a 50,000-watt station. They're a minor league team. And, he got traded 1 year for a catcher.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it worked out well for Ernie.
It did.
So
how's the catcher do?
Yeah, I don't know. I can hardly remember the name.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's about the only good thing. Now, before I ever went to complete the trade, though, I got a different job.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah. I peeled off at the last minute and took a job with the Iowa Cubs.
Oh, nice.
So it was fortuitous for
better
me.
Gig.
Yeah,
way better gig.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff, let's fire through these questions, shall we?
Questions. Where do we want to start? I mean, they started early. We'll start with Benny. Benny always asks good questions. Any chance the Rangers pull another Napoli end around and trade for Pressley now that he isn't with a division rival any longer? that's intriguing. I like Ryan Pressley
For sure.
a
Oh,
lot.
big time.
Great slider.
And by the way, the Napoli anniversary I think was yesterday.
Yeah.
I
Really?
think it was yesterday.
Yeah, it was yesterday,
The-
this weekend. Yeah.
Yeah, it was either Saturday or yesterday that the anniversary of that trade.
Yeah.
For
from
Frankie
Toronto.
Francisco.
Yeah.
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 What a hell of a trade that was.
Yeah.
I mean, especially that was
It's an interesting idea there by Benny, though. I like that.
I like that one too. Thoughts on Kenley Jansen? Well, kind of like Dave was saying, he's right there, kind of in the middle, velocity-wise these days, but knows how to get guys out.
He does, but the money thing is the problem here.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's
Because I like Carlos Estevez. I think that would be a nice.
yeah,
I think that'd be kind of a less flashy way to get the job done. Right? He's not. Name doesn't jump off the marquee in the same way Jansen does, but he's really good. I think he'd be a brilliant ad, but it's going to cost some money.
a lot of more money than maybe they have. And I think Benny had asked another question about what payroll tracker do you use, and it's like, well, I don't know, because they are all different. You use Roster Resource.
Yep.
I will do COTS just because that's where I've always gone. COTS has been around so long, but
Sure, that's Spotrax or whatever it is.
Spotrack,
That's
yeah.
pretty good.
So I don't know. I think the best payroll tracker is the general manager and the president of baseball operations, but I'm not sure they're willing to reveal that information.
No.
What would it take to get Marcus Stroman? Well, the Yankees would have to eat a lot of the salary. Is he the Marcus Stroman he was? I don't know. He had a decent year, I think, last year.
Yeah.
Is he comparable to John Gray? Would you be getting the same result?
Right.
Maybe.
It doesn't move the needle for me. I don't know
Yeah.
why, but it just doesn't. It doesn't. I feel like there are better avenues to take.
Yeah. All right. Well, Kelly Mann asks, Dave, you seem to have really warmed up to El Bombi in 2023. Buy-in to the name and his aura. Anything on that?
I don't think I do have anything on that. I mean,
What's not to like?
I don't know. I mean, I when we met him, I started using it after I met him.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I embrace it any more in 23 than I did.
When
he's
he's like,
He's a stud. I love him.
exciting player and
Yeah.
does a lot of great things that would lend to a moment where you would say El Bombi. And,
Well, I mean, yes, and he's super fun and exciting, and he's one of my favorites. My wife, one time, it was El Bombi this, El Bombi that, and she was like, "Yeah, he's the great Bombino."
yeah.
I was like,
Oh,
"I
that's
love that.
nice. Yeah.
I love that." And so,
Yeah.
that might have been about the time I started using that on occasion. I don't do it all the time, but
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
so
and
I
then,
like the
of course,
Bombino.
in the World Series, the local broadcast doesn't continue to get to be a part of it. But that's when the emergence of El Blondie,
Right. That one was good.
Yeah.
And those are the ones you kick yourself. You're like, "Ow, man, how did
El Blondie.
why
That was
are you using
fantastic. Yeah.
So,
Always good.
so Dave Hayden asks, what's your favorite call of all time that you've made?
Ooh, that's a good question. I've never thought of that.
3,000.
Well, I mean, that was is exhilarating to be there and to be
Yeah.
a part of that for sure. I don't know my call so much.
Right.
but
I think your call was great, but if
it's
you don't
clean, just out of the way. I
Yeah.
want to. Those moments, I just don't want to be in the way. Some of it gets really technical, but there was a play a few years ago. We had some cameras go out at the end of a ball game. There was some rain and stuff that was causing some trouble. Anyway, Gallo makes a play, I think it was Gallo, came up with the ball in the outfield, fires it to the plate to gun down a Twins runner trying to score for the final out of the game, and it was like a walk-off, assist to the plate.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I just remember making the call, thinking like it was really technically good, exciting, et cetera, and it was really fun and just unique and different. So a lot of times when you talk about like what call do I love, it's like when I didn't screw up a good play that was unusual, right? Where maybe somebody's overthrowing somebody and somebody backs it up and makes another, whatever. And when you just don't horse collar those, then that's when you feel good. So
Hey, we love you. You like us. Keep liking us and all that stuff because we're here every day at noon for you and making sports more fun for you. So this is the DLLS Rangers podcast. Bye. And now we're back. Yeah, that's our There's the queen over there just hanging out. She knows Dave from way back. We were all Bally brothers. We were all Bally brothers and sisters, back in the day. So, but anyway, that's what we call that, a soft close queen. Is that what we call it? Yeah, a soft close. Because we have a few more to say. Because I have to tell you my favorite call that Dave ever made. I'll be interested to see if you remember this. So we were in Oakland. I'm down in the first base well. And it's cold. It's late at night. And, of course, in Oakland, there's not very many fans. But those that are there are huge fans. They're really into it, right? And every game, there is a guy who comes in you remember. He remembers. It's a guy that comes in a big A, and a yellow A, like in a well-made cardboard
that thing
costume.
is impressive.
Yeah, cardboard costume. And a face right here, and he puts it on, and I don't know if I think his arms go through the edge of the A and stuff. He can do it all. And so Dave said, late in the game, he said,
well,
as soon as you started laughing, I knew you remembered.
Yeah, it was something about
when he goes home at night.
When he goes home at night, and pulling his head out of that a-hole because
he says, do you suppose he goes home at night and asks his wife, honey, can you help me get my head out of my a-hole?
If we're talking about those kind of calls, well, this is a true story. In Houston, when I was working for them on the radio side, the big Hurricane Ike, I think, came through, displaced us. We had to go to Milwaukee.
Went to Tampa, too, didn't we?
Yes, and that was with the Rangers.
That was
the Rangers where we met Houston in Tampa.
Yeah.
But earlier, back when I was with Houston.
This was the one before there.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I want to say this was 06, 07, somewhere in there anyway. I want to say it was Ike that came through, knocked everything out. We couldn't play the Cubs. Had to go play the Cubs in Milwaukee. First game, Carlos Zambrano throws a no-hitter. It's the only no-hitter at a neutral site in Major League history. I called that one, and that was interesting but not all that fun. And plus, you're exhausted from the hurricane and all this stuff. Anyway, we go to Miami from there, and we pick up a lot of family along the way, and it's just this crazy situation. But anyway, we're in Florida. I don't think anybody's listening back home. Pretty sure nobody's listening back home because they're all listening for emergency radio stuff.
Sure, of course, yeah.
But somebody, I'm trying to think who it was now, Michaels or Jason Michaels, I think, hits a ball deep. And this is when they're back playing at the old football stadium. And it's as good as gone, right? But it's radio. You can't say it until it goes. And so I'm following along, and it hits at the top of the wall. They got like a big outfield scoreboard. And at the top of it, there's a little, instead of it just going straight across, there's a little hump right there, which is the top of this clock, face clock there with the hands on it and everything. It hits the top of that clock and comes back into play. And without skipping a beat, I was like, he just got clock blocked. and my partner looked at me like, holy, did you just...
Yeah. This might have been your last broadcast.
And I think he just said, I think you just hear him underneath going like, careful. But that was one of my prouder moments.
Yeah, I guess so. That's
like
fantastic.
when I think of my great calls, when I think of that, like stuff that I'm really proud of, it's
that stuff.
the a-hole, it's the clock blocking, it's that kind of nonsense.
Well, William W. Williams. It's like Fletch F. Fletch.
Fletch F. Fletch.
Dubs, he says that his favorite was last year after the Langford Angel Hernandez situation in Houston.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you made the rounds on that one. He's right.
I did. That's one where I like. It's almost one of those where you feel like you just blacked out or something. You know what I mean? Like I lost track of the fact that I was actually performing a professional duty or a job.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting there getting pissed at Angel.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, clean it up, Angel. I mean, what are we doing? What's going on here? And I lost it.
Yeah.
I felt really bad about that. I did it again later in the summer.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, I went down and apologized. Not to Angel, but to the other umpire who I did that to. I felt bad about that. I don't like to do that.
Well, and nobody was more upset about it than Hoggy. I'm sure he gave.
I know, and Hoggy's so great though because he understands, but he definitely he's helped me too with perspective on those.
Yes, because he loves those. Hoggy it used to be the clubhouse manager, and now he manages the equipment room for the umpires. Yeah. And
he also umpires
yes,
girls' high school softball.
Yeah, Richard, and he does umpire, and he's Richard Price. Yeah, Hoggy. And anyway, he said to me, Raymond ripping on umpire, but he loves the umpires.
He does.
And
I always feel bad about that. And half the reason I go down to apologize to those guys when I do that is for Hoggy, because I just can't stand the idea of Hoggy being upset with me.
You don't want to be in Hoggy's doghouse.
Yeah.
I don't know. This was a game in Seattle, so I wasn't there. I don't know if it was the pandemic or right after when they were terrible and they're getting smoked. And some Rangers pitcher who probably didn't belong in the majors and probably isn't with the organization anymore threw up like a 50-foot pitch, just, and you said, so-and-so bounce pass for ball one. Cracked me up. So like my son, when he's pitching and practicing and throws one short, I'm like, Henry, no bounce passes.
You'll forget.
But it was so subtle. It was just like bounce pass, ball one.
Yeah, and you'll forget, Jeff, that we didn't travel either during the pandemic.
Yeah.
We called them from home and road. From the ballpark. Mm-hmm. Oh, man.
Yeah, I really hated that. And then I also didn't mind a part of it.
Yes, that's right. We got used to it.
Yeah. A lot more golf.
Razor Ray, I don't know if he's still, I know right at the end of pandemic, he was like, please let us keep doing it this way.
Oh, really?
Because he's done with travel. He's been, was a player and now he's doing it. He's like, let's just please keep doing this. And
CJ was exactly the same.
Was he?
CJ was like, why not? And I will say for an analyst, it made sense to me because they never seemed to mind at all. But if you think about what the analyst does, he waits and the play's over, and then he helps educate you a little bit on what's going on. Why did this happen? Why did this guy go there? Whatever. And, you can reasonably do that off a video screen.
Yep.
But when you're trying to pick up on the little actions that are off camera, right? And that's the thing is like, yeah, you see stuff like, and you'll see it. You'll see a play where I make a call about something, but you're not seeing what I'm saying on the camera. It could be they miscut it. It could be whatever. But once the ball's in play, I call the game as I see it from up here, and I can see all of it. But the guys in the truck and the people at home, you're seeing it through a peephole. One of 17 peepholes that they use. It's insane that they're able to get as much on there as they do, but I've got to see all of it as a play-by-play guy. I can't really feasibly do that, without being there.
Can you imagine telling Ford Frick winner Eric Nadel that he's going to need to call them off TV from now on?
Oh man,
he'd be riding off into the sunset, man.
Good night.
Yeah, there was one series during the pandemic at Oakland. And the Oakland TV crew was they just weren't, not the broadcast crew, the production crew. Yeah. They were just giving you guys the worst shots and like home runs. And like you were just, I think you were like surprised on some of these. Like, oh, that's gone. It's like, because it was just so terrible.
You get no feel.
Yeah.
You get no feel. The little behind the ropes view for you too. And John remembers this. This was one of the weirdest things that happened out of the pandemic so now you have two teams broadcasting a game. You want to minimize the number of people in these ballparks and stuff. And so what they did was they kind of wired all the cameras into both trucks. So instead of having each crew with a camera at low first and high third and center field, they're like, how about just one camera at all those spots and both trucks can use it? All right, fine. Well, cameramen, when their camera is on the air, there's a red light that goes on. And that lets them know, like, oh, I'm on the air right now. Don't mess it up, right? Don't go messing around. When that light goes off, you're not on the air. And the director's telling you what to do and what to look for or whatever. Well, when this happened, those cameramen didn't get paid more. They didn't get paid by, like, the union didn't help them in quite the way maybe they could or should have, whatever. There were just dynamics in play in the pandemic that made it such that, like, these guys are doing the job for two broadcasts now, but only getting paid basically for one. And so they would get pissed. And since they had no power through the union or whatever else to negotiate this, what would happen is when that light would go off, just in case the other team was using your shot, they would do what we call a wipe, and the camera would just go swinging wildly. And so we might be watching it and seeing a ball hit to somebody. All of a sudden, that camera just goes, what the hell is that? And people were getting pissed, and it was really untenable. And the worst part of it is now all that's behind us, and it still happens.
Oh no,
guys, still do it now.
Now they're getting paid the right amount.
Oh man,
but they're
it makes
still
me crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, man, Dave, it's been so much fun. We appreciate you coming in.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks for the elderberry.
Oh man, I can't wait. My wife's gonna love it too.
This is the biggest takeaway from the show. Try any jam, but I'm going to be trying elderberry jam.
Yeah,
on a grilled cheese. I think it's a brilliant idea.
Do it. You're going to love it.
Yeah,
it's so good.
I like that. I'm on it.
And don't eat elderberries raw.
No, please don't. You're going to be over the toilet if you do. So, all right, that's Dave Raymond. We had fun. We hope you did too. We're pretty sure you did. We like the chats. We'll see you again tomorrow at noon for another edition of the DLLS Rangers podcast.
Like us.
We all silly like the mayor.